All right, so we are back. Right off rip, chaos in America right now. I'm having a separate video on it. You guys can check it out. But Donald Trump just survived an assassination attempt. Very sad day in American history. Prayers to the family of maybe people whose lives were lost. But this video isn't about that. As you guys are watching this, I am on a plane about to head to Tampa, Florida for Jake Paul versus Mike Perry. I'm a part of the broadcast this week live from the Amalie Arena. Seeing as this is fight week, I think it's my responsibility to let you guys know how this fight can go for both fighters. In today's video, it's pretty simple. Mike Perry is fighting Jake Paul in his, we'll call it arena, the Marquess of Queensberry boxing, and he's clearly an underdog in this fight. But I'm going to tell you how Mike Perry beats Jake Paul. The breakdown. Let's go. All right, so let me start off by saying, no, I don't think Mike Perry is going to win this fight. I think it is more likely that Jake either stops Mike Perry or outboxes him for the majority of the fight. But that doesn't mean that it's impossible that Mike Perry wins. In fact, there are a couple of ways I can see this going down. Mike Perry possesses what I call an iron resolve, not necessarily even an iron chin. While yes, his chin has been tested and it is past that test with flying colors, the color being red from the blood spewing out of his mouth and nose, he has an ability to absorb punches in bare knuckle, in MMA. I think this is his overpowered ability. This is his main go-to when things get rough and tough. He's able to absorb punches. Against Jake, he is going to need that because Mike's ability to absorb punches has not only been a benefit for him, but he has tailored his game around it. He's essentially made a career out of, you're going to hit me, it's going to hurt, but I'm going to walk through it and I'm going to hit you harder. That is his game plan for this fight. And while again, you don't want to be hit very many times in the Marquess of Queensberry because those gloves cover the fists that Mike's used to punching bare knuckle, and those guys break their hands. Mike's able to capitalize, and he ends up winning fights. And it's clear this time what his game plan is, and while it's a terrible idea in my opinion, it may be the only thing that he can do to win this fight, is to tire Jake out, is to, I wouldn't even call it rope-a-dope, but be there in Jake's face. Almost the Nate Diaz game plan I would lean toward for Mike Perry. If you watch the Nate Diaz-Jorge Masvidal fight, I don't know that Mike's going to have that kind of volume, but that kind of pressure, even though I thought Jorge beat Nate because he did. Mike is going to have to implement a little bit of that stuff. Now, Jake is very good when guys recklessly walk into range and don't do it behind a jab, and he's able to jab them and throw combinations and then get out. The problem that Jake has had is when guys are great with pressure, but it's a controlled pressure. They are using their jab and they're able to continue to take punches while moving forward, or they have decent volume like Tommy Fury did and kind of stifles Jake's activity a little bit so that he has to clinch and reset. Now again, I don't know how successful Mike Perry will be at this, but for him to win, I do think he is going to be a front foot fighter. I don't think he's going to be a back foot fighter waiting to counter Jake. I do think he's going to be on his front foot, and if he's going to do that, he has to provide volume. Does it need to be Nate Diaz level of volume? No, I don't think he needs to throw 700 punches. I don't even know if Mike is able to throw that many punches and still stay fresh. This is going to sound crazy, but for the majority of punches that Mike throws, he doesn't even need to hit Jake. He just needs to keep something in Jake Paul's face so that it interrupts rhythm, interrupts timing, and gets Jake to be a little bit less aggressive and going backward. These are the things that you can do to potentially start to poke little holes and win rounds against Jake just by having volume and pressure. And also, let's not forget this, Mike Perry is coming up to 200 pounds to fight Jake, who is coming down to 200, even though 200 is kind of where he fights now. He was a lot bigger preparing for the Mike Tyson fight. He even confirmed he was above 230 pounds. So that's another factor that potentially Mike Perry is going to look to utilize. And I think point number 2 is a great thing that he should utilize. He needs to burn Jake's gas tank out. And again, we talk about the volume, we talk about the pressure. He's going to need both of those things. 1 + 1 + 1 equals 3. Yes, I passed basic math. The pressure, the volume, those things put together are going to equal Mike draining Jake's gas tank and pulling him in to those deeper waters where, in Mike's mind and potentially in reality, that's going to be the place where he can have the most success. Like, yeah, sure. Can Mike Perry in an exchange catch Jake in the first round and wobble him and end the fight? Absolutely. That can happen. Just like Jake can do the same. And we'll make a video on how I think Jake wins this fight. But when they're both fresh, realistically, Jake has more experience experience in the boxing ring to not put himself in dangerous positions, even though he is still fairly new. He has more experience than Mike does, and he's been in 10-round fights, so we've gotten to see how he looks in the first and how he looks in the 10th. There are moments in those middle to late rounds where Mike could step on the gas, and he's referred to it in their previous sparring sessions, how Jake got the best of him in the early rounds, but Mike was putting it on him by the time the spar was about to end. So again, if he can provide that pace, if he can provide that volume, those things can potentially start to zap the gas tank of Jake Paul later in the fight. Shots that were hurting Mike early may not hurt the same late, and then you can ramp that pressure, and then you could show the guy Mike is called green in this fight game what it means to really dig deep. But then again, Jake's kind of been there. He went 10 with Nate, he went 8 with Tyron, he went 8 with Anderson Silva, and those guys weren't able to break that code, at least not to the point like a Tommy Fury did when he went 8 with Jake as well. He did so because he utilized the jab and had heavy volume. I don't know that Mike Perry has that kind of skill. In fact, I don't think he does. So you have to utilize something else, which is that pressure. Mike has to be front foot, he has to bury his chin in his chest, and he has to be able to just suffocate Jake with pressure, but do so without getting hit with a nuclear bomb that's going to test that chin. That's the 50-50 of Mike Perry, right? I'm giving you a lane for Mike to win this, potentially by decision, potentially by late stoppage, but the factors that have to go into play for Mike, in my opinion, to win this are very slim. He has to be able to hurt Jake. And again, I don't care if it's in the 10-ounce gloves, if Jake is 215 pounds, if that bad boy does land on the chin, he touches the button, there's not many people that are going to eat it and keep walking around. So in that respect, Mike is dangerous, right? It's the danger of a man that is just a zombie that Mike kind of has to be, again, a la Nate Diaz, because I don't think his skill is enough to provide a win for him alone. He's going to have to be a tough man, which is exactly what he is. He's going to have to be able to absorb some big time shots, which he does. He's going to have to be a little bit better, in my opinion, with his volume and his jab. He's going to have to be a little bit better with his patience, not rush in and get absolutely cracked with something, but yet again, still be forward pressure, suffocating pressure, using his jab more. I don't really ever see him jab. And at some point, he has to unload a respect getter, a haymaker, a platinum right hand that shakes the chin of the problem child. That's the way it's going to have to go, I think, for Mike to win. He probably would need to knock Jake out. So I would say Mike's prediction for this fight is probably the most likely if he's going to win, which would be a later round stoppage. I think he said round 7 stoppage. They're going 8 rounds. So again, this would be around the latest he could do it after all the things that we talked about have been implemented. This would be Mike's moment. So how does Mike Perry beat Jake Paul? Pretty simple. He enters the ring as a Florida man, takes punishment throughout the fight, somehow shields his chin from the brunt of it, keeps pressure on Jake Paul, pushes him back, has him on his heels, hit him with volume to interrupt Jake's combinations, and again, make him a little bit more uncomfortable, a la the Tommy Fury fight. And then when Jake is tired and he's frustrated and maybe starts to overreach and swing a little wilder and doesn't have his feet under him, Mike slips inside or rolls underneath the shot and uncorks that big right hand, touches Jake on the chin, and puts him away for the good of all of MMA. I don't know if we're still doing that, but you get what I'm saying. That's what it's going to have to be, at least to me. I think Mike Perry, if he's going to win, has to be an absolute zombie. But you guys let me know. I'm going to do another video like this for Jake later in the week. I do have something very special that's coming out. If you guys will tune in, I think it'll probably be on DAZN. Let's just say your boy is cooking something up between the two fighters. I'll let you guys figure that out. But how do you think Mike Perry, if he is going to win this, how does he do it? I don't have those answers. I'm simply giving suggestions. But Saturday, July 20th from the Amalie Arena in Tampa, Florida, and live on DAZN pay-per-view. Once again, click that link. Jake Paul, Mike Perry will settle it. 8 rounds. Who wins? Guess we'll find out.